Okay, welcome, welcome. Hey, Doro, good to see you.
You.
Hey, Judith. Wonderful. Thank you for coming in. Well, we are continuing here a little series looking at an invitation to getting on board with the Course in Miracles. And we kind of got into our mind that we are experiencing it as an entrance to our new me, our new sense of who we are. And therefore, we can also allow it to have it every time anew and even have pauses in between. And that's then a little bit the difficulty of announcing it so that it is um, becomes clear when we are meeting here, because it is an out of time meeting, isn't it? And just want to practice to step back and to trust into that higher power, into Him who is guiding us and who is directing us in whatever ways. And yet, of course, certain announcements or certain alignments on the timeline makes it much easier in the communication. But on the other hand, it's also a good experience to feel completely free, which is definitely what this Course in Miracles wants to direct us and teach us. And that feeling completely free doesn't exclude the human experience, no? Because we know it's not really about being free, but it is about a choice of freedom within the dream. And that is what we have defended for a long time. And now we're giving that part also to the Holy Spirit. And that is literally, speaking for myself, a recognition what the mind training has offered me or has provided for me. That I don't need to hang on and be like a fanatic in the idea of fighting for a human freedom, but really in a very loose and relaxed way, integrating that. And I see it more as a forgiveness of myself. No?
Yeah, beautiful. And this is one of the main things in A Course in Miracles. It's the freedom of the mind. It's not trying to reach it here as in a human experience, because this will never never happen completely. Even if the experience could be, very different, and I experienced it very much here in Sinai in Egypt. Just to give a quick example, because I mean, Egypt has so many restrictions, and it seems like so tight in a human to live here as a human. Even you cannot travel easily. You can, like, there are so many restrictions. On the other hand, people here, they always find a way. And I mean, this is already something for me to, these are miracles. I mean, they don't believe most of the time in this system, or uh, in these restrictions. They are more really free in their minds. So it's very amazing to see that. And always have um to see these miracles happening. There's something doesn't seem possible, and there's always a way. And I really love that, and it's really something I can learn from these people here. I mean, in Germany, where I'm coming from, it seems like the total opposite. There's obviously so much freedom, But sometimes I see people stucking in their mind. And they have such a tight schedule. They have like so many responsibilities. And sure, I mean, it's not about all these people, it's about myself, but seeing all these examples, it means to me, I free my mind in a way. Otherwise, I wouldn't recognize. So yeah, this is one of the main things I really love. I'm really excited about. And yeah, and really asking for miracles makes this possible. It's like really being ready to open up my mind and not follow my ego mind, and instead like really, yeah, believe in the impossible, and and trust God that everything is possible.
Mhm.
There are no
Yeah.
bound.
And if we're gonna bind that really into the teaching of A Course in Miracles, what would come to mind for you?
I mean, it's really about forgiveness, and it's so much about letting go of my mindsets, of my beliefs, of my my belief system, what I learned in my childhood and in my life, how life seems to work, and to really step by step let go of all these rules I have in my mind, because this is what restricts me, and this is what actually let me experience how it is, or how like it just shows me my belief system. Everything I see here, it's just the projection of my belief system.
Yeah, very nicely put. And I can just fill in here that we chose our learning device. Ne? If I'm seeing the words and the mind training of A Course in Miracles as a learning device, ne? Then I chose a particular frequency or a particular part of my mind that is in a connection with that higher power or with that mind of God, as we call it, in order to learn. And what we also what you shared before, how it is looking like in the dream, and the differences in cultures, it's still everyone is learning and learning all the time. It is just a question what device, what tool I'm gonna use for my learning. And that's a very important point. You know, if you're gonna stand at the entrance of a new you, and we get them on board with the Course in Miracles and really wanna strengthen a commitment and motivation to go along as the structure of this course is laid out, then it will need a shift on that level. Which device, which medium am I gonna use for learning? And am I continuing only to use the means that the world is providing me, that keeps me within my dream images, which normally when the mind comes to the point to even inquire and think of, well, I'm ready for something new, or I'm ready for an alternative. then it is kind of desperate, and it has gone through a certain pain and suffering, and has somehow recognized, uh, I'm not happy with what I see, or what I see doesn't make me happy. Whereas that, where I can open up and feel a deeper sense of peace within myself, and be at and have a feeling of oneness and of home with everything I see or with everyone I meet. And exactly at that point, the Course in Miracles comes in and brings this offer that we call mind training. What I call as mind training is basically to go along and do the lessons of the day of this second part called a workbook of A Course in Miracles. And even if there is no recognition of an experience of God or a flight of oneness, everybody could go along and start simply studying these lessons, and can start out and say, okay, nothing I see means anything, or what I see is I see only the past, and I'm upset because I see something that isn't there, and so on and so forth, whatever lesson comes to mind. But of course, the instruction is to go along for a whole year, every day a lesson, starting with lesson 1 and continuing in a sequential way, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But there's also a part in the textbook at the very beginning, which is described a little bit more extensively in the original version, in the Urtext, we call it, or in the notes that Helen Schackman wrote down, most of it shorthanded, stenography, and then gave it to Bill in order to transcribe it. And a part of it has also become part of the first chapter and section 7 and the fourth paragraph. But in the original versions, there's a whole section dedicated to that idea in itself. And it starts out and it's saying there that all learning involves attention and study at some level. So this is where I would like to connect that, how we started out, and literally bring it down to something that every mind can do, because every mind at some point can give attention. It's giving attention to word images in any way, and he can also say, now I dedicate a certain time to study that. It has nothing to do if that mind realizes I'm understanding it and it makes complete sense to me or not. It has nothing to do with that. I can study something that is completely considered unreasonable or not understood at all. And this is the miracle in the Course in Miracles. It will still work. It will still do something. It will still open up to that entrance to the new you. And that is, I guess we all got the kind of a sense of that and kept us going with it. No? And then he says that this course is a mind training course. And good students assign study periods for themselves. That means I put I put time aside in order to study what I have been given anew called A Course in Miracles. I put time, I open time. Oh, I'm so busy from morning to evening, and my family and my kids and my work and blah, 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 blah. No, we have to put time aside in order to say, I want to dedicate myself to look at that what is given me right now as a medium. And however, since this obvious step has not occurred to you, he says at that point, and he was actually speaking here to Bill and to Helen, and since we are cooperating in this, I will make the obvious assignment now. And then he continues saying, you may understand the need to study the notes, as he called it there in the Urtext, or the course, yet still not realizing that many of the problems you keep being faced with may already have been solved there. See, the mind doesn't even realize that there's already a solution and the solving of problems going on, and that isn't even realized once this dedication with this contact is opening up and starting. And you do not think of this course of the notes in this way at all. He continued, and then he says, just first of all, he cannot be sure of this unless he tries. And second, they would be completed if both of you so willed. So here he makes clear premises. No? First of all, you have to try it. You have to give it a chance. I have to start and say, I want to see what that does with me. I want to make my own experience, right? I'm not going to listen to what is written anywhere or anybody says. I'm going for my own experience. And secondly, it would be completed, the learning and the entire course, and to the entering into the new you, that experience, uh, if I so will, if we so will, if that is our will, if because the will always at the end be aligned with God's will, with the will from out of time. If I put all the energy, all the focus, this is what I will. See, will is more than I like to, or I desire, or I wish for. Will is really power of mind. Né? And of course, it is indeed completed already by that assertion of that willpower.
Yeah, thank you. This is very important. And I just want to mention again, because also for me it's very important that, especially in the workbook and many lessons, it's always mentioned again that he says you don't have to believe what's written, but it's just do it. And this is so important, and it's so empowering. Okay, I don't have to understand, I just have to do. Okay. And so it makes it much easier, especially in the beginning, just to follow. And then I will experience the results. I will experience, oh wow, this is really, I'm really kind of, I have this yeah, the will of God with me. You will feel it. And this is really a miracle. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we are looking at that, what you mentioned, the introduction of the workbook, né, where he lays it all out, né, and where he talks also about what is the purpose of it, né, what does it serve for, né? And he makes very clear that this serves training your mind. Né? The purpose of these exercises of the workbook is to train my mind, to train your mind. And to train it for what? And to what? To a different perception. And originally it just said a different perfection of everything in the world you see. Yeah? Everything in the world I see, that includes, of course, all reflections of myself that I call then everyone. So it is a different perception. This is the new perception of ourself that is here defined as a new purpose, and a purpose that we should and we are supposed to accept. Né? If I'm willing to go along what this mind training or this course is offering me, I have to immediately remember and admit, yes, I'm willing to see myself, everyone, the entire world, with a different perception, to see it differently. Yeah? And it doesn't even say yet how differently. It doesn't even say to see it through forgiving eyes or through love and whatever oneness and all those qualities. Just, it says different. It's a different seeing.
Yeah, and I need to add here that it's very individual. And this is also something I love so much, because God, or the Holy Spirit, which is the channel for communication, uses really my preferences, things I love. So it's very beautiful that everything will be used. And he knows how I understand things, so he will use everything. And this is just another miracle. Yeah, he knows me like so well, like even I don't know myself.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say too. And actually, we do use this saying, you know? We do say, I know you better than you know yourself, no? Or why
Yeah,
don't you come with me and I introduce you to a Christ reflection, and he knows you way better than you believe you know yourself. And it's a true thing, no?
yeah.
Because it is basically the opening or this and the new mind doesn't see anybody with the judgment from the past. And as long as the mind is active in the transformation, I'm still, my grace, the grace is giving me, claim it now, and by grace I live, and by grace I'm released, and I can heal by grace. And so to arrive to experience the grace, all that the human consciousness has is its judgments coming from the past. So,
Mhm.
of course, that includes judging ourselves. If I judge myself, then then I also will it will reflect in the judgment that I project onto the world, and that is now the different way of perception. And
Mhm.
in also in that introduction, then he explains also how this new perception, this different perception is orchestrated.
Mhm.
And he talks about these two parts, how it is divided up, the workbook. And he makes very clear that the first part, and that is where this different perception really kicks in, is the undoing. That the undoing of the way you see now it is expressed. The undoing the way I see now, with those judgments, with those meanings from the past. Oh, this is a table, this is a chair, this is a computer, this is etc. etc. This is my beloved one's name so and so, and everything is believed to be known. And in truth, what this opening is wanting us to accept is a complete undoing of the way as it is seen in those categories. And then that second part, which we call the prayer lessons, is that was called the acquisition of true perception. But that was then an editing part. He used the expression in the original words, the restoration of sight. So how sight, true vision, the seeing with the Holy Spirit is restored. So there's a restoration process going on the moment we are willing to go along these lines.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's just so beautiful because it also teaches me so much to trust him and to trust the signs, to trust this journey, to trust that nothing happens without a reason, or like everything is meant as it is, exactly as it is. There are no what's the word? Um, I just used it today. So it doesn't matter. I mean, everything has a meaning, and mm, yeah, it's just beautiful how he teaches me. There is just love, and like that I really can learn or recognize. Actually, it's not learning, it's not something I can learn, like that I'm love and that God is love and you are love and there is nothing else.
Mhm.
It guides me deep into this recognition.
Mhm.
um and I can really see after a while that it's all actually all the same when I use light, love, peace. It's actually it's just one. We are one. Um, yeah, and I never expected that it's such a blessing, such a grace um what I can experience through A Course in Miracles.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that testimony. And it shows already and gives testimony what it has done in the understanding and in the perception, and that there was a willingness in our mind, exactly how he describes it also in the introduction, to apply these lessons, the ideas of the lesson. And maybe initially it might even upset the mind, and there's a practice period. And I mean, I know a lot of brothers who threw this course book away or put it back into the library and said, enough with this. No? And then later on came back uh, to start using it again, because it is a directive given for application. No? And when I'm willing to apply it in exactly with those scenarios and pictures of the dream, which I have still in place in categories or in meanings, or believe to know what they mean, then that application is absolutely necessary and very valuable. No? And so that is what Jesus says also in the introduction of the workbook. All that we are asked is to apply the lesson, to apply the idea, no? And to apply it exactly as we are directed to do, because every lesson has in its description, or some lesson it is given an instruction, an introduction beforehand, how to apply it, what to do, how to go through the day with that, in order to come to such an experience that goes beyond the judgments and the separation. And he adds on that we are not asked to judge them at all. We are only asked to use the ideas. No? We are asked to apply them, to take an idea, to apply it however we go through the day, whatever happens, whatever comes up. It might be the most beautiful day, and it might be the worst day of one's life, and to just apply it in the same way. Normally we are coming from a tendency to apply only alternatives when we don't feel good. When it kind of the mind goes into a desperation and devastation. But we learn with the Course in Mirrors to also apply it with our beautiful images. With those images, we feel well. We feel, oh, everything is going great. It is really an application that learned to not make any differences anymore. No? And so it is the use of these ideas that will give meaning to us. That is how he expresses it also. No? And therefore it will show us that they are true, that those ideas are true. And that those ideas are true means also that those ideas work. We can fully trust in these ideas as they are given. Besides that, these ideas are given from out of time, but that needs to be experienced also. but it is, I can definitely give testimony that this is the case. Those are ideas not of the human ego mind. These are not ideas that we learned by accumulating past experiences. These are ideas that we opened up in our mind through our contact with him out of time, right? With our communication with him in our heart, soul, and mind. And so therefore, I don't have anything else to trust in. This is all I can trust in. And once I saw that this works and it does change my perception about everything, of course, I would also stand up and teach that to myself. Yes, this works. This works despite of me. This works despite of what I believed, what would work for me. And so it leads us really away from our own plan for salvation to a plan that is already given and intact and is already uh, um, installed literally in our mind in through that contact with the source from out of time.
Mm. Yeah, and this is something important what you mentioned, that not to judge. First of all, yeah, do it through the lessons, but it's such a huge teaching or a huge part to experience, to exercise in this world, in this life here, because we never know for what. How is it? How is this lesson called? We don't know for what it serves,
I do
or
not
some.
know what anything is for or do not perceive my own best interests.
Yeah, the first one, I think is what I
I
mean.
do not know what anything is for, the lesson 25. No?
Yeah, this is something. It comes always back to my mind, and it's so releasing. I mean, that I don't have to know um whatever it is. It's for, and so I can really stop judging, which is not easy because most of this is something we learn from when we're small. And finally I can really I recognize that actually it hurts myself first, and to see this, it's something very important. Even if, I mean, it can be just a thought, it can be just what I think about the other person. So if I just really remember myself, okay, I don't know why he's saying that. I don't know why I think that. But it always gives me the chance to go deeper and to open up, to let the Holy Spirit guide me again, because I make this step backwards and I'm okay, I don't know. And I will trust you again. So we're back in to trust. I remember the trust again. So this is something very powerful, to not to judge and to always say, okay, stop. I don't want to judge my brother. I don't want to judge myself.
Yeah, and it is this, if I'm looking it from the other perspective, when there's not trust involved or restored, then what does the lack of trust do to the mind? When there's lack of trust, it will it will set a stage for making constant excuses and how he refers here in the introduction of the workbook is to make exceptions. That's a mind that is applying its lack of trust. When there's trust, then I don't need to make exceptions because I know maybe I don't feel well in applying an idea or going along with a directive and instruction, but I cannot fail. That comes from trust. But when there's lack of trust, then the mind makes exceptions. So when I see I'm making exceptions in the application, applying it to some pictures in the dream, but not to all of them, then it actually means that there is underneath, there's a lack of trust that needs to be also seen and needs to be a willingness to undo that lack of trust. And on which level, we are actually here welcomed with starting a mind training and starting an application of these lessons it's just sheer amazing. It just blows me away when I see that he's not really asking anything except this application without exceptions. And he mentions that you can read it. It's in the introduction in the 9th paragraph, where he says, you need not believe the ideas. I don't even need to believe in what it talks about. No? I don't need to believe in any concept. I'm completely free to make up my own experience. You need not believe the idea. You need not accept them. Not even acceptance, that I don't need to go in my mind at that point to say, okay, I accept that this is the plan for salvation for me. I accept this will do for me. I accept that this is the truth. I don't need to do that. I'm not asked to do that. And you need not even welcome that. I mean, this is like everything. It goes to the bottom of the human defense system. And
Yeah.
anyway, he mentions it then in the next sentence. Some of them you may actively resist, no? Because he allows us to stay for a moment in resistance. No? What mind training program goes that far? No? This is the amazing thing. No? So, and he explains it very simple with a few words. None of this will matter. It doesn't matter. It's not important for the success of the new perception. None of this will matter or decrease the efficacy. So even the effects of it, what the outcome will be, is not decreased, is not it doesn't get less, nah? But do not make any exceptions. That's really that's the entire emphasis what we are looking at in that offer that we call mind training of A Course in Miracles. Nah? I just need to remember not to make any exceptions, and that means I'm asked not to put my images further on into categories. Here's a category where I apply the lesson of the day, and here's a category where I'm anyway so fine or so well with it and I'm not applying it. This is all I'm asked not to do.
Yeah, because it's already a judgment if I say this is good and this is bad, and I have a good feeling and I have a bad feeling. I mean, this is already judgmental. Right? And sometimes we don't, or especially the ego mind says, no, no, no. I know that. I know it already. We don't know anything. So really just to exercise, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, then within the defense system, the mind can come up now, well, I have other interests. I'm more interested in other things. No? We know that also very well. No? It's then to move from, okay, here I see I'm directed and I would be aligned, but then I put the interest in something else. And it could be, of course, anything. But and that is going back to that Urtext where I was sharing at the beginning of chapter 3, where he and that I don't even know. I think that part isn't in the where I said it has been then transferred into chapter 1 into that fourth section, and I think it. That sentence hasn't even been brought along because he talks about the disinterest when the mind is no longer interested. Oh, section 7 it was. I said in the first chapter, section 7 in the fourth paragraph. And then he said, so the disinterest, when there is disinterest, he talks about when Bill was very disinterested in it. And that was a characteristic how he was dealing with a lot of things. But see, he went completely psychological in that. And he tells Helen to have an understanding that that is when he's afraid. So I can now apply that for myself. When the mind goes into not being interested in such a guidance, in such an alignment, in such a given directive, as we were just sharing how to do and apply a lesson, it's actually because there's fear underneath in the consciousness that needs to be investigated, discovered, and again brought to surface and given to the Holy Spirit. And the sentence then is, interest and fear do not go together. Interest and fear do not go together, as your respective behavior clearly shows. He had it on, talking to them. And that is very valuable, when I can see, okay, if there's a disinterest in the mind, I actually can go straight into investigating, well, am I afraid right now of something? Is there a fear thought hiding that makes up that lack of interest? And then I can, of course, immediately in the work with the Holy Spirit, catch that, discover it, release it, give it to them, let it be undone. Undoing is always an undoing of separation thoughts, of fear thoughts. That's really what the acceptance of the of atonement means. Accepting the atonement for myself means, translated, I'm willing that fear thoughts are being seen and being undone.
Yeah. I mean, the ego mind is so tricky. So to understand how it works, I mean, maybe I said it already many times, but I feel this is so important that in the beginning I was like, why Course America talks so much about the ego mind? I didn't want to hear. I wanted to be awake. I was like, until I understand, I need to know how the ego mind works. And for this, I need to surrender. I need to step back and to say, okay, I don't know. Show me. I trust you. I really want to see. I really want to recognize things. Or like the whole thing, not just things. So yeah, to surrender is something, for me, it became something very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't need to know it in like in a scientific way, you know, we don't need to be psychologists and study psychology or being psychoanalysts, but we need to recognize the framework, how the mind operates, you know. I need to be capable to see when there is a thought uh, present that is not wholly whole, né? That is not in communication, that is not opening up to the entirety, that doesn't make me happy or bringing me in love. Né? I need to recognize the quality of a thought. Né? When we are talking about separation thoughts or fear thoughts, we are talking of this making up an ego thought. Né? And that needs to be recognized. Né? It needs to be recognized that something is utilized and entertained that doesn't come from source, that is not of God's mind, that is not a part of creation. Né? It is a very basic selecting the false from the truth. Né? It's a very basic understanding that what is true is eternally true, comes from God, is of God, and extends God in the thought itself. If I'm thinking the thought of love, I'm literally extending God. And everything that uh, makes it small, that denies the wholeness, everything that that reacts in a certain way and repeats that reaction in one or the other way of reliving past, let's say, painful experiences which made up the suffering of the entire human condition. And that is really what we call the ego thoughts. Né? And what we learn in A Course in Miracles is very simply that this is of our own making. This we chose and hallucinated or were dreaming for ourselves in a very conscious and active attempt to stay separate from the source that we call God, from that who we are. That means I willed with the willpower, I chose to make up my own thought structure, my own mind, not in the extension of what is eternally true, but in my own rummaging in my mind what I believe or simply took by belief as true what I heard from my authorities, from my teachers, my parents, my whoever came along in throughout any time and said, yeah, that is what I want to consider now as reality and as truth, and I take that on, and I will start now to teach the same thing and start defending that. And the Course in Miracles literally brings us to the point first to question that, to inquire into that and question it. Yeah, is that really true? Is that really of value? And once the mind is looking at something and questioning an idea or an image in the dream, of course, the answer is very strongly present because it's an eternal memory, that connection and that wisdom of the Holy Spirit. And the answer will be, or we hear Jesus laugh on the other side, you know? And it will be very clearly that it has nothing to do with the truth. And you know, at the beginning, I heard very vividly, yeah, do you wanna know the truth? You know? And he still asked me for my permission, you know, and give that permission. Yes, I want the truth, the one truth that is true in every mind, that is true for all times, and that is true in and about all thoughts. And that, of course, can only lead by letting go for a moment those meanings given, those judgments given, those categories used, and to just let that literally crumble into nothingness for a moment in order to see what a newness or what a flower blossoms when we allow that newness to occur. had to come forth.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And yeah, like I just have this picture of my family when I was a child in my mind now. And I mean, usually we learn. Course in Miracles says, this world is upside down to the truth, right? So we think first maybe this love from our mom is like, this is really love and this is the most important, and until we realize, oh, maybe there's a different kind of love to my sister, and later maybe to a man or a woman, I don't know. And I mean, and then sometimes, yeah, it's like this, I will not get any love because I'm not nice to my mom. So okay, like it shows me, or I learn love is is conditional. It's something which depends on how nice I am, like what I'm doing or not doing. But there is the knowledge or the wisdom or the we have this knowledge inside of us. I also
It's an
remember,
intelligence, actually. No? It's a
yeah,
certain, it's an intelligence that goes beyond the studying intelligence. No?
yeah, because I also remember a situation when my brother was very angry, and I said to my mom, you know, mom, he just needs love. He just needs a hug. And you know, like it came out exactly from this place. It was not something Doro said. It came through.
Yeah,
Right? So and this is something very important that I really acknowledge, that I'm not this person, I'm not this body. And this, I mean, the ego mind really resists this very much. But if I go deeper, and this is what all these 365 lessons teaching us, to let go of what I thought I am, and to let the Holy Spirit communicating through me. And that's it. I mean, that's it.
Very nice. Thank you so much. I think those were the final words. There's nothing to add on. But I think we all have been motivated to have another look of how we go through a day and apply ideas, even on spiritual conception, application of spiritual concepts, and to be willing to bring that all into giving it to the Holy Spirit, and not to hold uh, any concept back, and so that this new love and this true inner recognition and realization of oneness, yeah, is accompanying us throughout the day, and that's all there is, and that might be another joining when we are looking at what spiritual concepts maybe temporarily could facilitate in that sense, but didn't do it at the end. And and no matter how many years, and we are all spiritual practitioners for many, many lifetimes, and finally to also give that to the Holy Spirit for the undoing and saying, yes, I'm willing to apply something completely new, because this is also a trap. Spiritual concepts are also a trap. I want to get out of that too. I want to be completely honest with myself. And that means on all level, in a complete alignment of what communication is in truth, you know. And if that is for a moment not considered lovingly or happy, so be it, you know. But it this all needs to be undone, no? Because just to go around with the big smile and everything is so lovely isn't gonna do it, no?
Yeah.
It will collapse again. It will show again how the mind has not fully transformed the separation and the fear in its own consciousness. And then we become honest with ourselves. That's really where, okay, I'm willing to look at this, no? And of course that is a new beginning. That's a completely newness, and because spiritual concepts have given us a certain backup. You know, I'm not completely alone. I still have something. I've still have some people who understand me. But when we are honest with ourselves, we die in our self-concept, and that includes the spiritual concept. And that's where really life begins. No? We touched that the other time too. No? And that's where we might look at that again some other time. So
Mhm.
love
Thank
you and thank you. And
you.
let's just join in a song and get out of here. Thank you, Judith.